1918, women were not allowed to vote because of the biased belief that men make better political decisions.
Restrictions on voting for women date all the way back to ancient Greece,
The creators of the democratic government. Today, we know democracy as the right for everyone to vote. Back then, we voted, but the circumstances were much different. The elections excluded women and people of poverty. Greeks preached power to the people. But did they really? If only a certain number of men with a certain status, all similar, made the decisions. After this, many other European countries adopted this form of government, the restrictions too. Fast forward over 2,500 years, and the fight for women's voting rights is only now in action. A movement known as women's suffrage that started in 1848. Those who involved themselves into politics were thought to eventually corrupt. Stereotypical men viewed women as delicate and vulnerable, so they thought they shouldn't be able to vote, too emotional to make rational decisions, that our emotions would sway us between candidates. Women weren't recognized as people in newspapers and politics, but had about the same say as children. They were considered property. Women who protested were called suffragettes and were often jailed for going on strike. Suffragettes were looked at as unladylike and unnatural for engaging in an activity like protest. They were called women who had failed to reach the ultimate female goal in life, marriage and motherhood. Not all suffragettes were women. Frederick Pethwick Lawrence and his wife were very closely involved in the movement and head of the WSPU Journal for Votes for Women. The amount of people involved in this movement is very hard to tell because some of them walked in big parades down the road and others worked in secrecy. Women won the vote in small and incremental steps, with our western provinces leading the way. On January 28, 1916, Manitoba women became the first in Canada to win the right to vote. They were then followed by Saskatchewan and then Alberta. Not all women in Canada got their votes right away. At the time, Aboriginal and Asian women were not allowed to vote until the late 1940s. The injustice is pretty obvious. Throughout most of history, women had less rights and career opportunities than men. I think it was crazy that women were once born into a world where they were governed without their consent. An old textbook's argument for why women shouldn't vote was because the physical nature of women unfits them for direct competition with men. That's messed up, and when they tried to stand up, feminism and protests were immediately linked to mental illness. In the aftermath of the women's suffrage movement, women's economic roles increased in society. Since there was more educational opportunities for women, it led more and more women to sense their potential for meaningful professional careers. Also, women's salaries increased, but not to the amount that men received. However, this still was a huge success for women because it was such a big step from what it had been before.